Welcome to Bridging the Gap, Ages, Stages, and Perspectives. I'm your host, Caroline Blumberg. I am a 34-year-old millennial born and raised in Miami.
And I'm your co-host, Wendy Blum-Weiss. I'm 62 years young, part of what's coined the baby boomer generation. Sounds weird, but true. I'm also a mom, wife, GMA, which stands for grandmother, and lifestyle and business strategist. Here on our show, our philosophy is we are never too old or too young. Hence, Caroline and I coming together to shine some light to that saying.
We're friends, colleagues, and business partners, here to share our different points of view on lifestyle and business, from health and wellness to spirituality, fashion, and the arts.
And by the way, Caroline, in her 30s, knows I always tell her that she is wise beyond her years. Together, we have the great honor to have real conversations with extraordinary leaders on a variety of topics that matter. Drum roll. On this week's episode, we have Kathy Mela, who has been in the medical field for 40 years, a lot of years there. I know we're talking about different ages and stages, and has built a name for herself and respect in the industry, and reinvented herself once again in her 60s.
Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about your youth? Share with us about your 20s, your 30s.
All right, I thought maybe you wanted me to go back real young. So I was thinking about this question a little bit about my, my life and how that's come about. And, I know that for a long time, really even at a young age, I was all about being me and being true to me. And I was thinking I read the book, The Power of Positive Thinking in my teens. It changed my life to really get the power of our thoughts, to understand that. And yet, as I stepped into my 20s, I lost sight of that. I began to look at what I thought society wanted me to do, thought I should do, was supposed to do. And I began to develop a life that was not always in alignment with me, although it sounds like it was because I had a great time in my 20s. I got married when I was 24. I started having children fairly soon. I had 4 children in a span of about 6 or 7 years. And the first 3 were like boom, 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 a year and a half apart. And I became a nurse. All of that happened in my 20s.
Oh, you were busy.
Very.
Very, very busy in your 20s. Wow, Caroline, can you imagine 4 kids?
No. I mean, yes, I can, but it's
busy.
It's very, very busy.
A lot of work.
A lot of running around, lots of going different places, different activities, and
organization, all this stuff. That's so interesting. So how did you decide nursing? I mean, did you decide that before you got married and had the kids, or was that after?
That was before. I really thought I was going to go more into business. When I grew up in the late 50s, early 60s, women tended to go into nursing or, like secretarial work, that kind of thing, or teachers. And there weren't the opportunities like there are today. So it's interesting to think about women and how far we've come, and yet maybe not quite that far. And I didn't want to be a nurse. I didn't think I wanted to be a nurse. I was going to go into business and be like a bookkeeper or a secretary. So that's what I started in college. I absolutely despised it. I hated sitting at a desk all day. And I got a work job that led me into I thought I wanted to go into nursing for the psychological part, to psych nursing, until I got into nursing and saw more about that. So that's what started me on my nursing career. And then I always loved babies. I loved babies and kids, and that's where my direction in my nursing career took me.
Now, you mentioned that. So here you are with 4 children, and then you specialized in nursing. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I specialized in neonatal. I thought I wanted pediatrics, which I did try for a little bit, and I did work with adults for about a year. And yet I kept going back to neonatal. I got an opportunity at a major hospital down here in Miami to learn about that. They needed people to learn. And so I did, took a 2-week course and stepped into neonatal. And at the time, it was very different than it is now. It felt like I think about like the MASH unit, like that show MASH. It was sort of, there was a lot of, it was new. Neonatal was new. It really didn't come, I mean, there was always babies being born, but really looking at sick newborns and saving their lives and premature babies didn't really start to take a hold until JFK's son died from respiratory distress syndrome, RDS. And that's when it sort of took off in the 60s. And I came into that field in the mid-70s. And I was a little bit afraid of it, and I was good at it. And so I left it for a little while and then shortly came back to neonatal. And that's been my career for over 40 years, is saving babies' lives.
That's incredible, Kathy. What a interesting story, because you take us back through the history of what that looks like. So that was your 20s, and that was your 30s. And then what about your 40s? So take us on that path of what was happening for you in your career and also like your mindset.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about my mindset, because in my 30s, I got divorced. My husband and I separated when I was pregnant with my fourth, and I was bitter and angry for quite a long time, so my mindset was in that mode, wasn't really great, and yet at the same time was, how am I going to take care of these four kids? And so I started working a lot of hours, a lot of extra hours. I stepped into leadership because there was more money in that. Really, I was very money driven to make the money to survive and hopefully get to thriving. In my early 40s, I got an opportunity to go back to school to become a neonatal nurse practitioner, which is a little bit different. A nurse does more of the bedside care, where a practitioner works with a physician and decides the care and does more invasive techniques to save babies' lives. So I had actually thought about becoming a practitioner in the first time I worked in neonatal down in Miami. And I wasn't sure that was what I was going to do, and I decided, to have children instead. And so that opportunity came back 20 years later, and I got an opportunity to go away to school and become a neonatal nurse practitioner, and it really changed my life in a lot of ways, helped me redirect my goals, helped me get confident in myself, and really helped me start to tap into this thing called our minds and that power of positive thinking and the whole thing around thoughts become things. So that happened a little bit in my 40s.
That's interesting, because a lot of hand-holding too, right?
Oh, yeah, you have to handhold the parents and, just to, tell them, step by step, this is what your child's going through. This is how you're going to have to take care of it for, however long it's going to take until, they get better. Some of them are probably a little more freaked out than others, so you have to, calm people down.
Yeah, people skills, right?
You were talking about, you're interested in how the brain works, and what went through your brain in your 50s about, maybe switching careers or wanting to do something different?
Okay, so in my 50s,
We're taking you on the whole ride.
Taking me on a whole ride.
You know what? That's great that you've lived a big life. Now, nobody at this point knows how old Kathy is, right?
89, no.
And she just keeps reinventing herself. So stay tuned. You definitely want to hear this journey, because it's an incredible story, Kathy. Incredible journey.
Yeah, so in my 50s, I was always looking to make a little extra money, and I would get involved with network marketing, those kinds of things. And so I got an opportunity. I was in a network marketing company in addition to my career, and got an opportunity to go to an event that it totally changed my trajectory. It was all about mindset and looking at a perspective in life and seeing, that there's different points of view. My view was like this, and I know you're listening. So my view was very narrow, and was really in a place of seeing it only from one way. And when I went to this class, it expanded my mind with the ability to see, to become more aware of how powerful our thoughts are, and how much that thoughts do become things. And when we can control our thoughts, which we do all the time, and when we really are intentional with that, we can change the world. And so I started changing myself first, because it's always important to me, and I think to most people, to change from within first. So that's what I started in my 50s, was taking what they call personal and professional growth and development courses. And I took a lot and I did a lot because I wanted to improve me. And that's what I did, yeah. And I also stepped into leadership in my 50s. I've always been a leader, and I got offered a position, mid to late 50s, to be a director of our group, of our neonatal nurse practitioners, which I stepped into, not for a good reason, and I did step into it, and learned a lot. Learned a lot about myself, learned more about people skills, and more about leading and what that looks like to lead.
So you really had a life change in your 50s. Would you say that was a really pivotal time in your life?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, big pivotal time.
Yeah, everyone is so different on their journey. What advice would you have to someone who's listening and feels like, I'm doing this thing and I can't see beyond? Like you had done the thing and you were staying in the same industry. What lessons did you learn, or what advice could you give to someone who has been in a career and would like to adapt or grow in the career or to make some sort of change? But you're still in your career at this point in your 50s, correct?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is two things. Don't give up. Stay focused on your dreams, whatever your dream is. Really, again, don't give up on it. Keep it in the forefront of your mind, and then do that thing. Do that thing like with your mind. Be aware of where your thoughts are going so that you are aware, so that you can make the changes, because there's so much power in those thoughts. Again, thoughts do become things. Like if you realize that was probably one of the biggest things, big awarenesses to me. Like I have the power to change my life, to change circumstances by looking at my beliefs, my patterns, my perceptions, and start interrupting those old thoughts and creating new ones.
Now, at 60, like what are you thinking, Caroline? At what age do you think you're going to retire? Do you think you'll retire? I'm just curious.
I don't know. Right now, it's so
far down the road, right?
So I haven't really been thinking about it.
Yeah, most people don't. Like most people in their 30s are not thinking about when I'm going to retire. But like, kind of like the average retirement age, people figure like, what do you figure? Like
it's usually like 60s? 65.
Okay,
that's the typical retirement age.
Right. Sure.
But I know people that are working way past that.
Yeah, these days, it's possible, right?
They know because they love what they do. And
that's key. They love what they do.
And they're not going to stop until,
Yeah.
something happens.
Yeah, right. Till they have to, or, because, so I think we're like up into the 60s. And were you, Kathy, thinking about retiring?
I think there was some level that was beginning to think about it, although, that word retirement, it always feels like, I think we need to redefine retirement. It feels like, my parents are like, okay, you retire and you just hang out the house and what do you do? Like that never appealed to me. And so my nurse friends and we used to joke and say, like they'll be wheeling us around in wheelchairs to go to a delivery, when we're older. And yet it's, working in an intensive care unit, I was getting to the point where I felt physical changes, where I felt like my body would not be able to sustain doing some of the long hours that we worked. I worked sometimes 16 to 24 hours. And, I realized that is a younger person's game, because you do have a different stamina and energy to be able to stay up, and not that it's healthy, but to do it. So I started evaluating that and really saying, what is it I'm going to do? And I started stepping more into who am I going to be? Because I'm not going to stop doing things. I'm not going to stop being active unless something knocks me down that I can't be active. Who am I being in this moment? So that's where I've been living more in this space. And in my 60s is who am I being, and how do I show up in my life, and how do I show up in the world to create the kind of impact that I want to create? Because I'm all about helping people know their true value and believe in their possibilities.
Oh, okay. So now I'm going to ask the question. How old are you? Are you 70 yet?
Not quite. It's right around the corner. I'm 69 years young. So I have, in January of 2024, I'll be 70.
You'll be 70.
Yeah.
Wow. And what does that look like for you? What has been the journey now in your 60s are you still working in healthcare, and you now had this epiphany and continuing to grow in your life. So what does that landscape look like for you?
Yeah, well, I retired from healthcare 3.5 years ago. Like when I say that, I'm like, it's been that long? It seems like it was yesterday that I decided not to work in the hospital arena. And of course, as we know, that was in 2019, Labor Day of 2019, I retired. And then we know what happened in 2020. So that, and also my mother passed in 2019. So she had been living with me. And, these are the things as we get a little older that we experience that we don't always think about when we're younger. And yet there are some young people who experience these things. And so in my 60s, from retiring, I knew I didn't want to just sit home, although I kind of had to in 2020. We all had to. And it's like, so it gave me time to reflect on things like how I'd been living my life, like everything was an emergency, because I worked in an area where you were either in an emergency or waiting for the next emergency. I lived my life that way. And I started saying, not everything is an emergency. So I got to take a chill, calm down a little bit, be more peaceful, and start saying, what is it that I really, truly want? What do I desire in my life? How do I want my life to look? My kids are grown. I have grandkids, 7 grandkids. I have a great-grandson. The grandkids are growing. They're teens. They don't want to hang out with Granny as much. And that's okay. They're living their lives. Now it's time for Kathy to live her life and figure out, I could have another 30 years on this earth. I don't know how much longer I have. So I want to play full out in every moment of my life. And I guess that's the other thing I would say to anybody, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a little kid, whether you're 20s, 30s, whatever. What does it look like for you to play full out in your life and do that, play full out?
Would you say that's the main message you want to leave our audience with, or do you have something else that you would want to say?
She's so wise. She's got so many things, right?
She really has a lot to say.
I think that's one of the main messages, is to play full out. And I really know that my purpose is all about radiating my light of love. We sometimes think that our purpose is what we do. And I thought that for, decades, that it was raising kids or the job. And I got really clear who I am and who I'm created and designed to be while I'm on this earth. And so that's really what I would like to say is give yourself grace. Take it easy on yourself. Sometimes we're not so nice to ourselves in our heads, and it's important that we learn to be a little nicer and gentler. And I was listening to something on the way in that was talking about that we, in our society, I like to challenge the societal norms, because in our society, we do a lot of work on the external part of us. We get our hair done, we get massages, we work out, we're very focused on the outer. It's as important, if not more important, to do the inside work on our minds, our thoughts, our brains, our beliefs. And that's what I would say. If you really want to live a fulfilled life and play full out, do some of that inner work as well as the outer work.
Powerful. Amazing. So share with our listeners how they can learn more about you. I know that you're a best-selling author, you are a professional speaker, you coach, you do all these things. So where can our audience find you?
You can go to my website, kathymela.com, KathyMela.com, and pretty much on not every social media, but Facebook, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, and what else am I on? Instagram, Kathy Mela. So just look for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today, Kathy.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We can't wait to have you in your 70s, 80s, and 90s. What do you think, Caroline? What do you think?
All the decades. We'll talk about all the decades.
We'll celebrate your 100th birthday together.
Awesome. Something to look forward to.